Hi, it's Michael and Anthony here presenting Small Business Banter. A healthy micro and small business sector means a successful economy and a more vibrant society. Small Business Banter is about helping regional business owners better prepare for the current challenges, but also for the next stage of business success. I'm Michael Kerr, founder of Kerr Capital, advisors to business owners. Each week, with Anthony Turner from the Small Business Mentoring Service, we'll interview a different small business expert or a fellow business owner and get them to share their best tips and insights for you, the listeners. Small Business Banter is brought to you from the studios of 104.7 Gippsland FM and is heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network. Thanks also to our supporters, Kerr Capital and the Small Business Mentoring Service. Okay, so welcome into today's edition of Small Business Banter. I'm joined today by my co-host, Anthony Turner from the Small Business Mentoring Service.
Hey everybody, great to be back.
Isn't it? Excellent. And our guest today, Peter Hurst, who he's going to tell us about himself and his business background. But what we're talking about particularly today is his new venture called Roadii, ROADII.com, which is a listing of festivals and cultural events around Australia that he's recently launched. So welcome in today, Peter.
Thanks, Mike and Anthony. Good to be here.
Excellent. We're really looking forward to this chat. We provided you with a little bit of background on small business banter. We're championing that people get out there and get into small business and make the most of small business. Do you want to just give us a little bit on your personal background to get the conversation underway?
Yeah, sure. Originally I trained as a school teacher, but early on and very much by chance, I moved into the business sector and spent 20 years working with companies like Ansell, General Motors and Nylex. So that's my commercial background. Also been heavily involved in surf lifesaving around Australia. And the first small business that I started, a business called Surf Safety Australia, supplies safety products to lifesaving clubs in Australia and overseas, particularly the UK. About 3 years ago, I started Roadii.
Right. So, yeah, I didn't realise you'd had that much under your belt. But so tell us about Roadii then.
Yeah, Roadii is basically a database. It's a website that lists Australian festivals, events, wineries, distilleries, and it's extremely simple to use. It's computer-based, but also very, very mobile phone friendly. And it takes, if you're looking for a specific event, it'll take you about 15 seconds to find what you're looking for. Events can be, yeah.
And it's serving up these types of events, and I think you, in some of our early discussion, you said it's a hell of a lot quicker than Google.
Yeah, it certainly is. Google drove me to distraction. I was looking for events and it was taking me hours. And you very often, when you're searching through different websites, you get lost in the website train.
I think it's part of the design anyway, isn't it, to get you lost? And
yeah, I got well and truly lost, and often went for a box of Panadol looking for just a bit of relief. So
all you wanted to do was get out on the road and go take in some great music events or similar.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't want to spend too much time at home on the computer. I just wanted to get out and about and enjoy some amazing events.
Yeah, Peter, it's Anthony. was playing around with Roadie last night to have a bit of a look and see it, because I'm actually heading off on a trip in a couple of weeks' time, and or planning to, COVID allowing. One of the great things that I found about it was that it was very, very easy to actually get into, and so congratulations on that. I noticed that when you're actually doing searches, and I was looking for searches around an area rather than a particular event. Some of the things which might be an iteration that's underway or something like that, I tried to put in a town, but it came up as sort of areas and things like that. And I just wonder, with the people need to be a bit familiar with the areas and stuff. So not a criticism, but just an opportunity about how can you make it sort of like, if I wanted to go to Shepparton or to Brisbane or something like that, I can put in the name of a town and it brings up the things around, because that was one of the great things that I liked when I worked it out. It sort of gave me a whole plethora of different things that potentially I could go and see and do.
Yeah, look, I originally we went down that track.
Yeah.
And what we found is, if you drill too far down, if you're searching by a specific town, by a specific month, it can end up a little bit like Google and you get lost. Whereas if you choose a region and a month, then the menu that's served up is a lot richer.
Mm-hmm.
And you might want to go to Shepparton, but you might end up 50 k's down the road before you get to Shepparton.
Yeah, I think, is there a philosophy underpinning this? I know you're just about to take off on a 6 or 8 week road trip yourself.
Yep.
And to take in, I think you're going through to Byron and back through the middle of Australia. But is there a philosophy underpinning this to get people out into the regions, to do road trips, to take in more than just the traditional tourism options?
Yeah, look, definitely there is. I think any holiday and any road trip can be made so much richer when you know what's happening and what's on. I used to do a road trip or travel to a certain region, and I'd see a poster in a shop window, and that poster would feature a fantastic event, but it was either on the week before I got there or it was on 2 weeks after I'd left. So the whole idea behind Roadie is to build events, festivals, and even things like wineries and distilleries into your itinerary, so that you make your holiday and your road trip much richer.
Well, I guess one of the challenges, Peter, and I'd be interested about how you're overcoming the challenge, is obviously getting the listings. So, I mean, there's lots of events from all different sizes and scales and types and all that sort of thing. How are people interacting with you and learning about the fact that this is here? Because I can see this as a great benefit to lots of regional areas which are struggling or have struggled in the past to get and maintain tourism.
Yeah, originally blood, sweat and tears.
Mm-hmm.
It took a lot of time. The Roadie's built so that event organisers can input their own data. It has to be approved, but event organisers can go in and input their own data. As a result of COVID, I'm a little bit tentative at the moment. I'm really encouraging people to email me and I'll put the data in to make sure that it's perfect. COVID's meant that we've gone through even more blood, sweat and tears to make sure that all of the data's up to date, all of the dates are up to date. So, yeah, there's definitely a desire to make everything richer.
So can you just talk through some of the types of specific, you can name them, of the events that might be listed on Roadie right now that people listening in may not have seen?
Off the top of my head, for March, April, probably would have a bit of trouble telling you about those events, but the trip that we're planning is in May, June, which is not that far away.
Yeah. And
when we make that short trip, we will go to a new music festival in Byron Bay. We'll then go to the Australian longboard surfing titles in Kingscliff, then across to Winton in outback Queensland to attend the Outback Film Festival. Then once we've travelled back through Alice, we'll go to the Festival of Light at Uluru, and I'm in the process of booking tickets for two for Dinner Under the Stars. So that gives you an idea of a couple of events.
But it's great that you're using it that way. And I see this as a huge benefit for people who are looking to plan a holiday, because, you know, one, I might be able to find events that are things of interest to me in different areas and stuff like that. But also, too, I may have been planning to go away sort of in 2 weeks' time, but I might put it off and go away in 3 or 4 weeks' time or something, and be able to juggle my trips to be able to encapsulate a lot of these things that I would otherwise miss, as you were talking about before. So that's, I assume, is part of the attention. So, you know, what would your advice be, or, you know, how are you getting out to people like me? I mean, reality, up until, you know, I knew you were coming on the air, I hadn't heard of Roadie, and probably a lot of other people are in the same place, but I can see a lot of benefit that many of us can actually enjoy. And the other thing I like about it is, you know, it's free for me to actually go on and use this as a planning tool. So how can you get it out there and get more people involved with it? What's happening there?
Look, initially social media is driving the interest. Down the track, there's an opportunity to work with tourism partners, your airlines, your caravan parks, your tourist authorities. I think there's a wealth of opportunity to work with the industry. Your auto magazines, your RACV travel magazine, there's an opportunity to communicate via those avenues as well. So, look, I think there are a lot of different ways, but time will be one of the secrets.
Yeah, as it always is, Peter. In terms of, I want to get back a little bit later to this idea of combining something that's a passion of yours with a business. But in terms of the industry at the minute, right, we're incredibly difficult, challenging times, but one of the bright spots around all the day-to-day challenges of COVID is you know, regional tourism. So you see a great future in regional tourism for the next 3 to 5 years. Can you talk about your outlook for regional tourism and the operators and consumers of that?
Yeah, look, we launched Roadie about 2 weeks before COVID struck, which wasn't great timing. But what I'm seeing at the moment, and it's really been over the last 6 weeks, I'm starting to see events pop up and even new events pop up. And I'm finding that extremely exciting. And it's almost like the growth you see on a gum tree after a bushfire. There's almost a little bit of that regeneration starting to happen now. And I just think that's very exciting to see that people are now prepared to take a risk. They're setting dates. Sure, the Victorian situation cancelled a couple last weekend, but the regrowth's there. And I think Victorians and Australians need to get really excited about what's out there. You know?
It is. There's no doubt. You know, I think when we were chatting last week, I was in Malakuta, and you know they've been through an awful lot. But those, you know, there's a need to get on and plan, irrespective of. Otherwise, you lose hope.
Yeah.
If you're not planning, and we've got so much to offer. You know, you talk about the breadth of the events that you list and the festivals that, you know, it spans all the great things about what Australia's got to offer. I just wanted to let everyone know listening in that we are talking with Peter Hurst from roadii.com, ROADII.com. Peter, so let's swing back to the idea that we want to foster and encourage people into small business. It can, you know, we hear the term side hustle. I'm not a massive fan of that, but I'm certainly a fan of the idea that people can combine a passion and a business and perhaps a lifestyle. So can you talk about your aspirations and motivations for the business and how you intend to incorporate on an ongoing basis your passion for road trips and the business part of it?
Yeah, look, one of the lessons I think I've learned from my commercial experience and my small business experience is that you are never quite sure where opportunity comes from. And that is very exciting, but it's also something that's hard to plan for. I'm a massive believer in a small business should be founded on passion and interest. Small business can be tough. Very often it's that idea of 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. So if you're going to work that hard and soak up your spare time, you've got to love what you do. So that is one of the things that drives me. It's the ability to enjoy what you do. My commercial experience also tells me that you've got to be pretty analytical as well and try to avoid wasting time and wasting money.
Yeah. I think one of the things also that's probably implicit in what you're saying there is that, small business is a very, broad term. And there are opportunities to start things that are maybe a micro business or it's a part-time thing. But a lot of it, would you agree, a lot of it's about combining the passion, but also having a realistic expectation of what you want from that small business? It doesn't have to be, $1 million a year business to be something that can be viable and enjoyable and sustainable.
Yeah, I think if you go into business with the $1 million in mind, I think it's the wrong mindset. I think if you go into business with in many ways, a marketing customer mindset, looking for things that you enjoy and that people want, then that's the basis. And it can be a micro business. It can grow into something really quite amazing. But I think you don't start from the dollars necessarily. You've got to start from the passion, start from the what makes sense.
Yeah, but I think it's some very valid points there, and I totally agree. Having been a business mentor for many years now, that the passion is the thing that gives you that inspiration to keep going when things are tough. But what I do like is the point that you made, though, is that you've also got to be realistic. I mean, the reality is that if you're going to be setting up a business, there are costs involved. There are going to be time constraints and concerns. And so how did you go about, or what would you recommend to people to do in that part of it as well, as preparation to make sure that they are on the right, well, they know they're on the right track from the heart, but to make sure that, from the head, they're also on the right track, that it's not going to be a spiral to disaster.
Yeah, look, Anthony, it's a great point. I read somewhere, I can't remember where I read it, about taking small risks and taking them one at a time, mm-hmm. and understanding what you might lose. So I'm a big fan of that. Take a small risk. There's always the opportunity to lose, but if you take a small risk, you're managing the business setup process. And you might have 3 wins, you might have 1 loss, but 3 wins give you a basis for building. And that's my philosophy. Take a small risk and build from there. Build from the wins.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And the other thing I would say as a mentor, just to capitalise on it, also to make sure you put in appropriate protections for your current assets, your family, and all of those sorts of things. Be very, very careful about those things as well.
That's right.
Peter, you've further along that line of discussion, you I think run a couple of small businesses in parallel. So this is Roadie is still one of a couple of businesses you're involved with?
Yeah, I run 2. Roadie's the new one. About 6-7 years ago, I started a business called Surf Safety Australia, which supplies safety gear to lifesaving clubs around Australia and overseas. Now, I took a risk. It was a small risk. It was only a $15,000 risk. But I bought in some helmets from Canada. And the reason I did that, my children were involved in surf lifesaving at a national level. And there were 2 deaths. And I said, this sport needs to consider safety. And they hadn't considered it to the extent they have today. But I took a risk and said, life jackets, PFDs, helmets and those sort of things will come in some form. So it goes back to that original philosophy of mine, is take a small risk. If you lose, bad luck. You haven't lost your shirt, you haven't lost your house. But that business has now been going for 7 years, and we now sell product overseas. So it's once again great fun. It's a good service, and I thoroughly enjoy it. So I love small business.
Yeah, and so Roadie comes along. It's another, a new direction, a new idea. But you're not betting the farm on Roadie, because you've got. So for others listening in, it might be a case of sticking with your job for a period of time while you try and get something up and running, or but definitely not dive in holus bolus if if the risks are too high.
Yeah, look, my philosophy is you never know where action will take you. Take considered action, get excited about it, but understand the risks, and take small risks and keep building.
Yeah. Do you want to just tell us? I think you've set a challenge to Australians to get out on the road. It's called the Roadie Challenge. No.
Yeah.
Do you want to just chat about that and your thinking behind that?
Yeah. Look, I'm very excited about that. I was looking for different ways to promote Roadie, to communicate Roadie to the Australian public. And it might have been after 1 or 2 glasses of red wine. We thought about the Roadie Challenge, which is basically paying someone's petrol for 15,000 kilometres if they can use Roadie and visit 100 festivals, events, wineries, markets in 365 days. So I think it worked out to about 2 a week. And I just think there's so much fun in that, and it will show people that tourism in Australia is more than just rocks and beaches. And we've got great rocks and beaches, but we've also got fantastic events and fantastic cultural activities in this country. And the challenge, I think I've got one person that's prepared to accept it. I had 2 people, but one person is building a van to take on the challenge. We're decking it out. And look, I'd love to do it myself.
You're having a trial run of 6 weeks or so?
Yeah. Doing a small version.
That's great. We're going to come up shortly to our time, but a minute or so on you're a successful small business operator. You've given us a great insight to your approach to small business. Some of your heroes that continue to inspire you around business and making it happen.
Yeah, look, one of my early heroes wasn't really a business, but it was a not-for-profit, and that was Ian Kiernan when he started Clean Up Australia Day. I just thought, for someone who's collecting rubbish around Sydney beaches, for that movement to take off and go Australia-wide, I think is a massive endeavour and an inspirational endeavour. Just shows you what's possible from an idea, shows you what's possible from a bit of perseverance, and also a bit of support from those people that should support, the creatives, the individuals that try new ideas out. I'm also a secret admirer of the owners of the Sir George Hotel and the Long Track Pantry in Jugeon.
Tell us more.
Yeah, we'd never heard of Jugeon. It's only 2 minutes off the Hume Highway between Melbourne and Sydney, but it would have to be one of the best pubs and the best pantry coffee shops in the middle of amazing country, but surrounded by nothing but farms. And the number of people that stop there and camp overnight is just phenomenal. And I think the owner of the Sir George was originally from Cottesloe in WA. And to move from Cottesloe to country New South Wales and make a massive success out of a rundown hotel, I've never told him this, but I'm a secret admirer.
Well, it's a great. We have to put them on. Are they on the as an event or a cultural destination?
Yeah, they are. I think they're down twice.
Okay, all right. Well, it's a big shout out to the Sir George and Long Track Pantry in Jugeon, New South Wales.
Yeah, well worth a stop.
Well worth it. Peter, thanks so much for your time today on Small Business Banter. We've been chatting with Peter Hurst from Roadii, which is roadii.com. And we look forward to hearing more about your adventures, the success of the business. Thanks you very much for your time today. Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Anthony.
Cheers, mate.
So that's all for today's episode of Small Business Banter. Anthony and I continue to be inspired by bringing you small business experts and other small business owners and hearing their stories. For any of the links, resources or information we've talked about on the show today, or to contact Anthony or myself, please head over to smallbusinessbanter.com, or you can find us on both Facebook and Instagram. Anthony and I would love you to tune in at the same time next week for another episode of Small Business Banter.